Right, so today I'm going to show you how to make a really basic but very, very tasty, very, very nutritious, simple beef stew. So I've done all my prep beforehand so that it's much easier and quicker to do the video, and I don't have to bore you with all sort of the small chopping bits. I'm not a qualified chef, so I don't have any knife skills worth showing off. But essentially what we've got here, we've got 6 basic ingredients. We've got 600 grams of beef chuck steak or beef roasting joint, chopped up into cubes. We've got 100 grams of plain salted butter, 100 grams of red onion sliced thinly, 100 grams of celery also sliced relatively thinly, not too thinly, and then 100 grams of, I think it's pronounced chantenay, carrots. And then we've got half a litre of chicken stock. Now, the thing that I'd like to point out is the ingredients on the left here, the butter, the beef, and to a degree the chicken stock, mainly the butter and the beef. These are the primary source of the essential nutrition in this meal. So between the butter and the beef, we're getting all of the essential amino acids and fatty acids that our bodies need. The onions, celery, and carrots are there not from a essential nutrition perspective. They're there purely for taste and texture. They complement the beef and the butter very, very beautifully, and they enhance the flavor of the meal. They add nothing to it from an essential nutrition point of view. There's nothing in these 3 ingredients that your body actually needs. It's purely just, or rather, to phrase it a different way, there's nothing these 3 ingredients provide which your body actually needs but isn't provided by these 2. Everything your body actually needs is provided by these 2. These simply enhance the flavor and augment the meal. That's the reason for the inclusion. So into a pot goes the butter. Pot's already hot just to save some time, but the point here is to melt the butter down. While that butter's melting down, we're going to get the onions in there to soften. And we're going to add the celery also. When you give the onion and the celery a good stir, let that butter melt in. Let them cook to the point where they're starting to soften and also starting to caramelize, and then we're going to move on to the next step. Okay, so the carrot and the onion and the celery have been browning in the pot there, sort of softening up and browning in the butter for a few minutes. It's now time to add in our meat. So, there goes the meat. Stir. And what we're going to aim to do here is to brown the beef just a little bit. We're not actually going to cook it now, we just want to brown the outside a bit, mix it in there, get the butter all over it. The purpose of that is just to give it a little bit of colour, and that just avoids your beef sort of going grey and looking a bit anemic in the stew. It's more for aesthetics than anything else. Makes no difference to the flavour or the nutrient content of the meat, but just gives it a better look if the meat is browned before you add the stock and start to boil it. Okay, so the meat's been going in there for a couple minutes now, given a good stir around, got a bit of colour on all sides, which is great. Now we chuck in our carrots, and then last but not least is our half a litre of stock. Half a litre of stock in, give that a bit of a stir around. So as you can see, it sort of only just covers everything, which is fine. You can use a little bit more water if you want to. I prefer not to. I prefer it to cook down a little bit over the next few hours. The sauce sort of thickens up and just becomes absolutely delicious. But there you have it. So we've got our onion, our celery, our beef, all sort of softened and browned in the butter. We then add our carrots. We then add our stock. I'm using chicken stock in this instance because that's what I have available. You can use beef stock, you can use red wine stock, everything excepting maybe vegetable stock. I wouldn't advise that because I don't like veggies. There's enough of those in there. We're going to bring it up to a hard boil now. To do that, what I'm going to do is put the lid on just to help that along. The aim here is to get it up to a hard boil. Once it reaches a hard boil, we'll turn the temperature right down, and then we'll just leave it alone for the next 3 hours. And that's as complicated as it is. Okay, so let's have a look there. Right, so we've reached a hard boil. And that's going nicely. So what we want to do now is we turn the hob right down, low as it'll go. It's then a very good idea to put your wooden spoon or your ladle across just the edge of the pot, not the middle. You want it across the sort of edge there. And then you take your lid and you position it like such. And what that does is it gives you a little bit of a gap there, wooden spoon, and that'll stop it from boiling over. It shouldn't boil over because you've got the hob set on the lowest possible heat. But just in case, that's a very good idea. That's like a secret in the trade to stop it from boiling over and save you a whole bunch of hassle with the cleanup. So now that you've done that, got it on its lowest setting, make sure if you've got young kids around that it's at the back hob, so that it's not sort of on the edge and where little fingers can reach easily. So you have it on the back, you've got it on low, and you just leave it alone. The time now is 5 to 1 Sunday afternoon. I won't touch it again until 5 to 4, so I'm going to leave it alone for the next 3 hours to do its thing. And that's what I love about stews. A little bit of prep work. It took me maybe 20 minutes to get everything chopped up and ready. It's been about 10 minutes worth of cooking, so you've seen about 7 minutes worth of it on the video. And now I just leave it alone, leave it for the next 3 hours, and in 3 hours time I'll come back and it'll be gorgeous, delicious, beautiful stew. I'm really looking forward to that.